Oh, hello. So I have an idea for making a podcast in English. I have always been making a podcast in Vietnamese, right? Very informal, casual. I walk and I talk. Whatever that comes to my mind, and I talk about it. What is my take? What is my rationale? My critical thinking about some topics. So I talk about it. And I'm thinking about lately. I attended one of the workshop, and they talk about personal blog, and they talk about podcasting. So I was thinking about, hey, maybe I can do some podcasts in English. You know, so I'm thinking about, okay, if I have to do a podcast in English, what would be a perfect topic to talk about? What topic that would be considered relevant to speak in English? So I was thinking about, hey, maybe learning language, maybe learning English, right? So, we learn English, we make a podcast in English about learning English. So that would be a perfectly, totally relevant, right? So, and I'm gonna share with you my learning process. What do I think of it, and what is my strategy for each components of the language itself. So just like any other skill, in order for you to master, in order for you to successfully acquire the language, you need to, you must love it. You must have a passion for learning it, for that skill. You got to be inspired. You got to be internally motivated, right? So your internal motivation for learning this language, in this case English, is going to be your motivation to keep you going consistently. Because one of the key to any success or any successful second language English acquisition is consistency. You need to practice it, on a regular basis, consistently. Maybe probably, I don't know, 3 times a week at least, 4 or 5 days per week for like 1 hour. But in order for you to know what would be the best way for you to acquire this skill, you have to identify what kind of skill it is. What category does language skill fall under? Language skill is just like any other skill, like a music skill or a sport skill. Those skills are of muscle memory category. Not all the skill you want to learn is actually fall under this category. Language skill is kind of like music skill, kind of like sport skill, in the sense that they fall under muscle memory category. And how do we learn skill of this category best? The best way for you to acquire skill of the muscle memory category is just practice. The more you practice, it's actually easier than any other skill that is belong to different category other than muscle memory. Muscle memory's category skill, it basically, you just practice more. The more you practice, the better you're gonna get it, and the faster, the sooner you will become. It's just as simple as that. It's very easy. So just come up with that practice schedule, with that learning schedule. Maybe every day for 5 days a week, for like 1 hour. Don't make it like 7 days a week, because for a while you're gonna get tired, you get burned out. Just do it like for 1 hour, or maybe 15 minutes a day for like 4 days, at least 3 days a week, right? So to me, I feel like the language consists of 3 components, right? The first one would be a vocabulary, right? Just simplify the process. The language is all about knowing the vocabulary, right? And the right structure, kind of like English grammar. And the third and the last component would be the pronunciation, production of sound, articulation, clarity, not speed. So what is the strategy? If you know that the language composed and consists of these components, the vocabulary, the structure, otherwise known as English grammar, and then the last one is pronunciation. So what is your strategy for attacking, these components, or attacking these components simultaneously on the daily basis? Vocabulary. Let's assume that you started out 0. Your vocabulary basis is 0. You don't know any English word. And you don't have any access to any formal English curriculum or formal English course, right? So how do you learn the language without having any formal English class? You come up with your own curriculum, and that's where you have to sort of make it up your weekly routine, make it up your studying routine. The strategy for you to build your vocabulary base is just like how baby build. It's kind of like, you want to learn the basic stuff, and then the most common basic stuff to the most complicated stuff. Just learn the easiest one. At the beginning, you might not know all the words. Make it a goal. Maybe make it a goal like you're gonna learn 5 new words per week, right? And then just kind of keep the record, the list of all the words that you learn, for the first 3 months. And then probably by the end of the first 3 months, the end of the first quarter, go back and evaluate and remember that. And before the next day or before next week, kind of review the new word, the new vocab, the 5 or the 10 words that you learned from the previous week. So the more that you rehearse, the sooner the better it will get into your memory. Build your vocabulary from the easiest one, the most common one, the most frequently used word, to the least common word. Okay, so do it that way. And the second component is the structure. The English grammar. Let's say you don't have any courses now to teach you the formal English grammar. How do you do it? Maybe you basically just sort of whenever you read, whenever you listen to a movie or a TV show, or watching news, when you read the caption, or even when you take a look at YouTube videos, just watch a very short video. Do not watch, no longer than 5 minutes, okay? Just watch a short video and then try to take a look at the transcription. Any new word, and then pay attention to, let's say, the sentence structure. In every sentence, the structure, you're gonna have 3 parts: the subject, the verb, and the object, right? And the verb is actually, to me, is probably the most difficult part. The verb, the clause, the verb clause, the verb phrase, the phrasal verb. Focus on that things. That's the hardest part of the sentence. Focus on that first, for the first 3 months, right? Always focus on that part. People normally, people come to the gym, they say that, Monday I'm gonna work on my legs, Tuesday I'm gonna work on my toes, my shoulder, and then Wednesday I'm gonna work on my arm, Thursday I'm gonna work on my back, right? But language skill is not like muscle. Sometimes you want to grow your muscle by working on it so intensely, and you let it grow and develop. Your muscle get expanded by resting it. Language skill, you have to go deep enough and long enough before you can rest. So, maybe 4 months, the next 4 months I'm going to focus on this one, because you want to go deep enough in this part of the sentence structure. And to me, it's the most difficult part. So it makes total sense to focus on that first. And when you focus on this clause, the verb clause, the verb phrase, in and of itself, automatically take care of all the tenses, like present tense, past tense, present perfect, past perfect, without you realizing it. Just memorizing it. We Vietnamese people, we grown up in Vietnam as a little student. We always memorize it. We commit stuff into our memory. We memorize stuff. We say it over and over again. Remember that phrase, right? It's all about English. It's all about sentence. And sentence is all about different part. You replace each part with English equivalents until all of the sentences are completely replaced by its English equivalents. So just start with the most difficult part, the the verb clause. Do that, you know. Remember how things are, memorize all those things, and then by the end of the 4th month, move on to the next part, maybe the subject part, maybe the now clause part, right? And the third components of the language would be the pronunciation, how to produce the right sound, how to pronounce the correct word, right? The articulation, the clarity. You know, at the beginning, you do not want to focus on speed. Maybe you're gonna speak a lot slower compared to the normal speed, and that's okay. You know, don't focus on speed. Speed will come, you know, as you make any progress. It's not gonna come, you know, in a day, in a week, not even a year. Language skill is actually gradually acquired over, you know, certain period of time. So just work on that. You know, like certain speaker of certain language, a speaker of certain languages might find certain English sound difficult. Maybe the Japanese learning English might have difficulty with a certain English sound, which is quite different from the Vietnamese speaker or the Chinese speaker, because we don't have that sound in our in your native language, right? Like in English, maybe difficult for a Vietnamese speaker to pronounce any word starting with the TH, right? Or even a P sound, right? Focus on those difficult sounds first. How do you practice to master those sounds, to produce those sounds correctly? The TH sound requires that you put your teeth in between the teeth, right? Put your tongues out in between the teeth, right? And the P sound, we don't have the P sound, we have the B sound. B sound like bờ, like boy, like bên, right? That's a Vietnamese word. We have those sounds, like boy, like beach, like bench, like but we don't have a P sound like pen, right? Like pumpkin, like pencil, like pink. Oh, one of the best way for you to practice producing this sound correctly is called a paper test. Let me show it to you. Hold on, give me 1 second. A paper test, okay? This is called a paper test. It's a paper techniques that's gonna help you to correctly, you know, practice pronouncing the P sound, okay? Hold on. Like this one. When you say B like boy, B like big, okay? The paper doesn't move. B. But when you say the word P like pen, P like pencil, P like pink, okay? Producing the P sound is make the paper move. Let it P, right? Right? P, right? P, right? But when you say the word B, no, the paper doesn't move. When you say the word P, the paper must move. P, pink, pencil, pumpkin, right? So that's one of the way for you to practice pronouncing and producing that sound, the P sound. You know, started out with those two difficult to pronounce English sound first, especially for Vietnamese speaker. You know, TH require that you put your tongue in between the teeth and the P sound. And then sometime by the end of the word, they actually have an L sound. That means that you have to sort of like curl your tongue up like bar, right? Like bell, right? So try to do that. You know, it's sort of like use a mirror. Stand in front of the mirror. Your selfies of your cell phone. Selfie of your cell phone. You can use that as a mirror too. You know what? When you sit in the train, when you're sitting at the in the restaurant, you can actually just practice certain sound. Sometimes I test that by waking up in the morning. Before I brush my teeth, I want to say like a word ending with the L sound to see whether or not my tongue curl up, like ball, right? Bell, right? Do that. And then for me, if you want to actually working on more advanced, more formal English, especially, an interesting part of the English language is the question, because the question in English is always, the structure of the question in English is always kind of like awkward compared to the Vietnamese question. They're always a swap, right? So I want to, one of the best formal setting that I normally listen to the question part is whenever they have a congressional hearing. Here in the United States, they always have congressional hearing, especially during COVID-19 or right before COVID-19. Between the senator, the congressman, to I don't know, maybe high-profile, highly ranked government official. They always have some sort of like investigation and hearing and all that. And during this formal setting, they always ask a tons of questions. These people are all trained in criminal justice. These people are all trained in law. So they actually have the attorney mindset. They ask questions. So this would be a perfect formal setting for you to observe, the kind of question they ask and how do they structure asking those questions. Listen to this congressional hearing. I love listening, on C-SPAN, on Fox, on CNN. They actually make it live. They make it live, on air, upperly up to the publics. Take a look at how they question all these people. This is probably one of the opportunity that I learned. I discover certain very interesting English feature, like the word if is actually a question, right? I learned that the meaning of the word if is a question from this scenario. When I heard people asking a question, I'm asking you if you created a different account on the same day. If in this case is not, if you do this, I'm gonna do that. If you stop your music, I'm gonna turn down my music. If it's not like conditional if. If in this case is kind of like asking a question, I'm asking you if you create it or you turn this into that. It's a question. So this if in this context is actually a question, and asking if this is true, right? It's kind of like that. And then the second thing is that, like the word that, I'm working on a project that gonna help people auto daily task, right? That in that case is sort of like that. But there's another meaning of the same word that. I believe that. That in this case is kind of like tôi tin là. The other that is kind of like mà. Tôi làm việc, tôi đang làm việc trên một cái công việc mà giúp những người khác auto task những cái công việc hàng ngày. I believe that. That in the second scenario means that là tôi tin là tôi sẽ đạt được cái kỹ năng này, right? It's kind of like I believe that in a year I will master this English language. By the end of this time next year, I will improve my English language dramatically. It's gonna be like that. So you know what? Kind of like 5 something that you want to watch and do it regularly. You don't have to watch it, like a long video, maybe a short videos, on YouTube, like less than 5 minutes. And the best way for you to do, start it slow. And natural way for you to practice and speak English slow is by singing. Maybe you get up, you dance, you clap your hands, you sing, certain phrases of the song. You actually have a certain movement. do that, and to see whether or not certain things you do will help you. If certain thing you do help you by the end of, let's say, the first 3 months, then repeat that things. If certain thing you do, you feel like it's not really helpful, then discontinue doing that. You have to do some evaluation on quarterly basis, so to speak, right? So that's just my tips for you. It's kind of like my strategy. You might find it, some of them is good, helpful, then by no means go ahead and use that. You might find it is not relevant, then you know what? Then don't use that. You come up with your stuff, your own techniques that you find it helpful and relevant. So, happy learning, and I hope that this journey of learning the language, your mastering the English is going to help you. You never know, because a lot of materials out there is in English. You have a lot of exciting stuff. It's kind of like intellectual stimulation. When you read certain stuff, it's in English, and they talk about certain things in certain way, but it's actually in English. So you feel empowered that way, not because of the language itself, but because the things they say and the way they say it. And remember, even the master program in university, at the university, even in Japan, where the language is not English, or in Germany, where the language is not English, even the material being used for the advanced program, like master program, a PhD program, those textbook is all written in English. So in a way, English could be, intellectual stimulation, whatever your goals are. Maybe you want to find a better high-end paying job. Maybe you just want to intellectually stimulate it by reading material written in English. Or maybe your goal is want to sort of like be a linguist, or find a boyfriend or girlfriend in the English-speaking world. Whatever your goals are, make it an inspiration. And as long as they can internally motivate you, that's good enough, because it requires that you practice it consistency. And remember, consistency is a key to acquire any muscle memory category. Muscle memory category, you must practice it. The more you practice, the better that you're good at it. That's all. Happy learning.